Well, I tell you who they could have used at the end of episode 6. Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. Oh, people are gonna die. What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Stranger Things Season 2, Episode 5, Dig Dug. Good game. Not played it in a long time, but good game. And this episode was a solid one. Very interesting partnerships in this one. Nancy and Jonathan going to talk to that one guy that had his conspiracy theories at the beginning of the season. Don't remember his name now. I want to say Murray. Could be wrong about that. See Elle going to talk to Terry. You see Bob joining in, helping Joyce, Will, and Mike find where Hopper is. Also see Lucas finally talk to Max about what's going on, although that partnership is not really new. But surprisingly enough, Dustin in this one teams up with Steve. We don't see what happens yet. He told him to bring his bat, so I'm guessing they're going to deal with Dart. But it's a funny little partnership. I was not expecting that. But as far as the actual details in this episode, most of it I liked fine. The guy that Nancy and Jonathan talked to, I'm going to call him Murray for now until I find out what his actual name is, because that's just what's in my brain at the moment. But I wasn't really sure what to expect from him, but the more they started to talk to him, and especially once he gave them the idea of watering down the story, I found him pretty likable. We'll see where his character goes from here. But I like that idea. It's something that it doesn't reveal the whole truth because a lot of people wouldn't be able to swallow that, but it's enough to get the people to at least listen and look into what's going on. And sometimes that is necessary, not revealing everything because it might be too much at once, but at least enough to get people to question, and that can lead them to solving things on their own. I also do like the fact that Max doesn't just instantly believe Lucas, and even at the end, not really sure whether she fully believes it or not. I feel like she is probably going to need to see something for her to actually buy into it. But I do feel like it would have been pretty unrealistic if, after all of this season so far, after we've seen her be pretty cynical, Lucas just tells her the story and she goes, "Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds right. I'm gonna believe you on that." Thought it was a lot more in line for her character to kind of make fun of him for it. I am a little concerned about what's going to happen to her though, since Billy said, you know what happens when you lie, and I don't like Billy still. I feel like he's not really providing much outside of, as I said before, just being an antagonistical douchebag. And as fun as Dustin and Steve teaming up is, I will say Dustin in this episode, I get it. I understand he doesn't want to tell his mom what's going on, but lying to her like that, telling her that the cat's still alive and out there, kind of a dick move. Like, I know he's trying to get her out of the house, but it's still just, it gives her this false hope that the cat's still out there when it's clearly not. Felt bad for the mom in that scenario because you could see how torn up she is about it. But as far as the final story with Hopper and Joyce, Will, Mike, and Bob all searching for him, first of all, I will say for Hopper's point of view, as much as I liked how intelligent he was in the first season piecing together stuff, and this one maybe a little naive of him to just jump down into this hole and start searching with no sort of protective covering. I realize he's trying to get to the bottom of this, but I do feel like he should have looked at the situation and gone, maybe not the best thing to go in there completely alone with no backup, with nobody knowing I'm here, especially when he knows that being around a lot of this stuff is toxic. So I did think that was a little naive of him to start with, but I did like his intelligence throughout the rest of it, leaving the cigarettes to find, realizing that fire is something that pushes it back, even trying to search for a way out, using the fire to open up spaces in the wall where you can try to claw his way out, and unfortunately just not working. But I do like the fact that Bob got involved a little bit. Now, obviously, he's going to have to learn a lot more about what's going on here. I do think this confirms for me, because I did have questions about whether or not he was going to be connected to a lot of this stuff, because it seems so random to have Sean Astin in a role where he's just some guy that Joyce went to high school with that she's dating now. But I think in this episode, it kind of confirms more for me that he's not connected to a lot of this stuff. Just based on his reactions, it doesn't feel like he knows anything about what's going on. He's just kind of along for the ride because he enjoys being there with Joyce. So I think more than likely what this is going to lead to is what we saw before, where he's going to give Joyce a way out of this tough situation by basically trying to give her a normal life. But of course, we see everything that's going on with Will. She's not going to be able to live a normal life. And so I think that's more so what that'll represent for her, is losing that chance at a normal life, because he's probably going to find this a little too strange for him and probably just go ahead and move. Can't remember what his plan was, but he had some sort of plan to like move out and open something. I think it was Maine. Although if he moves to Derry, Maine, then he'd probably experience some more crazy shit, but that's a whole nother story. Like I said, this was good. I had a good time with it. These stories are starting to converge a little bit more, and I'm excited to see where some of these are going to go. Again, I can't wait to see Dustin and Steve teaming up, because that to me just sounds like a really funny duo. But with all that being said, move on to the next episode, so I'll see you guys there. And now episode 6, The Spy. Holy shit, dude. This was quite the intense one. We do have one moment of happenstance where it kind of feels like a Deus Ex Machina, but it makes sense within the confines of the story. And that is, of course, the scene with Lucas, Dustin, Max, and Steve in the junkyard. A little coincidental that they just so happen to be leading the soldiers into a trap that requires all of these mini demigorgons to go after them just around the time when they're about to eat all of the faces of these kids. But, you know, it sometimes works out that way. Suspend your disbelief, it's a fictional show. But I said in the last episode how I was excited to see Dustin and Steve team up, and it did bring about several funny moments, like I was expecting. The whole conversation about girls and the hair products, all of that was just a lot of fun. And then, of course, Dustin getting all upset because Max shows up with Lucas, and Steve completely misreading the situation, like, yeah, man, act like you don't care. That's how it works. I don't care. Why are you winking, Steve? Really funny. But we do finally get a little bit more about Max. I'm assuming her mom and stepdad are going to be somebody important because we've not seen them once yet. We've only seen her and Billy. And I just feel like that's going to lead to something. I don't know what, but it just feels way too random to not be important to the story somehow. We still don't really know what Billy's problem is, though. And once again, we still just don't really have any connection outside of Max's befriending Lucas and Dustin. That's kind of the only connection we have to Billy. Other than that, he's just an asshole. And that's not really that interesting right now. So I feel like I'm not really caring about Billy that much. But let's talk about the main part of this episode, which is, of course, everything to do with Will. And in all of this, I really do just feel bad for Joyce. Because after everything she went through last season, I think she would hope that everything would sort of go back to normal. She wouldn't have to worry about anything else. And so to have now where her son is basically being used by this whatever, this being on the other side, not only to spread its roots seemingly, but also kind of as a hostage, because now they can't even attack it without hurting Will too. I just feel so bad for her that she has to deal with this again, where her son is in danger and there's not really much she can do about it. And now for this thing to use Will to lead all these guys into a trap, I'm sure that's going to come back on him. Even though it's not like he has much of a choice, he's kind of being controlled by the thing. It is kind of weird that for some reason it made him lose some of his memories, but he still remembers like Joyce and Mike. But like I've said for most of the season, this is where my intrigue lies. Everything to do with Will, everything he's going through. I feel like this story has just been so well done throughout this entire season. And I've been loving the ride. I've been enjoying watching the progression, watching Will slowly have to deal with this thing more and more. But there is one other thing in this episode that I'm just not really that interested in, and that is Nancy and Jonathan do finally hook up. They've been hinting at it for a while, so it's not that much of a surprise, but again, I just don't really see them as a couple, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the one guy, I don't, again, remember his name, but he even says in this episode that they have shared trauma. It's kind of the only thing that I see that connects them. So I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but I just don't really see it. And so having them finally hook up in this episode, it's not like a finally, it's just okay, well, I guess we are going to do this. We'll see where it goes, but it's not really one of the things I'm that interested in. We'll say it was also a little weird that Eleven didn't feature at all in this episode. I didn't really talk about her going to see her mother that much in the last one, but I kind of figured it would go somewhere in this one, and as far as I can remember, she didn't show up at all. But I feel like starting in the next episode, things are really going to ramp up, considering it feels like this being is now launching an all-out attack on the lab and everybody in it. I guess one other thing that just popped in my head that I did want to mention, so Dr. Owens, finally remembered his name now. I wasn't really sure what to think of him. I wasn't really sure whether we could trust him or not. I do think in this episode, he does seem to be still focused on the science, but I think we are seeing he does want to try to handle all of this with the least amount of casualties. We did see there were some of them that didn't really care whether or not Will live through this. They just wanted to get rid of this infection that they see. Basically an ends justify the means sort of mindset, but it doesn't feel like he feels that way, which I think is a good thing. I don't know if he's a good guy still, but at least on that front I can say, well, at least he's not willing to just sacrifice Will to get rid of this thing. So that does make me trust him a little bit more, but we'll see what comes from him next. Yeah, like I said, it feels like things are about to ramp up, so I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these two episodes? What were your thoughts going into the final three? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all the good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Stranger Things reviews. Also check out the channel. We have a lot of other reviews on here, so check those out if you have time. But until next time, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.